Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking on a story that requires some real focus. The source material is painful, it's incredibly political, and it's just fiercely contested.
It really is.
We're going to try and piece together the life and the controversial death of a woman named Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis.
And, the sources we're working from here are so layered. We've got this very detailed, almost emotional, true crime script about her life. But then you have the cold official transcripts from places like the AP.
Right, the official record.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's this wave of international commentary just trying to make sense of the political fallout.
So our mission today really is to try and untangle Renee, the person, the poet, the mother, from the massive political firestorm that just erupted after her death. We have to lay out the two completely conflicting stories about what happened and then really unpack what it all means.
And I think that's the key thing here. This goes way beyond just one tragic incident. It's a case study in the clash between, centralized federal power and a local community's response. The narratives were set almost instantly.
Okay, so let's start with the human element first, because the sources are very clear on this. We need to know who Renee Nicole Good was before she became a headline.
Right. She was 37 years old, a U.S. citizen born in Colorado. And the documentation really tries to establish her identity right away, almost to counter any assumptions.
And the first thing they mention is that she's a mother of 3.
Yes, a teenage daughter, a preteen son, and a 6-year-old from her second marriage. The sources say over and over again, her kids were her entire world. But that's not all she was. She had this whole creative life, too.
Absolutely. She studied creative writing at Old Dominion University, also vocal performance. And she was active, right? She co-hosted a small podcast with her husband.
Yeah, about life, creativity, emotions. It paints a picture of a really reflective person. And here's the thing that really stands out. In 2020, she won the Academy of American Poets Prize.
That's a nationally recognized award. This isn't just a hobby.
No, not at all. She was a seriously talented, recognized poet.
And the title of that poem, it gives you a sense of her style. It was called On Learning to Dissect Fetal Pigs.
Intense.
Yeah. Her own description on social media was just poet, writer, wife, mom. Friends said she was kind, soft-spoken, deeply empathetic.
And we have to set the scene. She and her family had just moved to Minneapolis from Kansas City. They were looking for a quieter, fresh start.
Which brings us to January 7th, 2026. The night everything changes. A cold, snowy evening in Minneapolis. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement IC officers are in the area.
And this is where the accounts they completely diverge. We have to start with the official claim from ICI and the federal government.
So their story is this. IC officers were stuck in the snow. They were trying to push their vehicle out. And Renee in her car allegedly tries to drive toward them. They use the words ram them.
An attack. That's the narrative. She was immediately framed as a threat. And so an ICE officer, in their telling, fired his weapon defensively to protect himself and the others.
But the language they used, it went so much further than just self-defense.
So it escalated immediately. Trump administration officials, they called it an act of domestic terrorism, an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm.
That label is so important. Domestic terrorism, it just changes everything.
It sets a whole different legal and political precedent. But then you have the counterclaim from her family, from eyewitnesses on the scene, and it's a completely different reality.
They say she wasn't violent, she wasn't aggressive, she was confused, she was scared.
Exactly. They argue there was absolutely no justification for using lethal force. And witnesses talk about why she might have been panicking.
The conflicting commands.
Yes, some officers yelling at her to go, others yelling at her to stop. In the dark, in the snow. You can just imagine the chaos.
And the sources say the officers had their faces covered, no visible ID.
Which just adds to the intimidation, the confusion. It makes panic seem like a very, very likely reaction, not aggression.
Then there's the aftermath, which is also deeply concerning. A doctor at the scene was apparently prevented from helping her.
And the ambulance took 15 minutes to arrive.
Yeah.
Witnesses say the officers didn't try any life-saving measures. The whole narrative from the witnesses is one of disproportionate force, followed by, really, medical neglect.
And this is where a tragic incident explodes into a national political battle. The federal response was immediate and overwhelming.
All designed to solidify that domestic terrorist story.
President Trump tweeted that he'd watched a video, he didn't use her name, no remorse, he just called her a woman who was driving erratically, a professional protester.
The language there is so deliberate. Dehumanize her. define her as an enemy, not a citizen who panicked. Then Vice President J.D. Vance came out with a statement that was chilling.
He basically said, yes, it's a tragedy, but it's a tragedy she was responsible
For illegally interfering with federal police. That phrase alone sets a terrifying precedent.
That just interfering, or being perceived as interfering, could be a death sentence.
And then the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, she just doubled down, explicitly connecting what happened to domestic terrorism. It was a full-court press from the administration.
But, and this is what's so unusual, the local and state government pushed back hard and immediately.
Which almost never happens. For a city police chief and a governor to publicly contradict the president like that, it's historic.
The Minneapolis police chief came out and refuted Trump's claim that an officer was hurt. He said he asked ISEE directly about casualties, and they told him only the victim was injured.
Which completely undermines the self-defense argument.
It punches a huge hole in it. Then the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Free, he said the ICE deployment wasn't about safety. He said it was about creating chaos and intimidating people.
A political stunt. He basically called it a political stunt.
And then Governor Tim Walz, he just condemned the whole thing, asking, do you have no decency? But he did more than that. He encouraged people to protest peacefully.
He called it a patriotic duty. That's a governor telling his citizens to stand up against the federal government's actions. It's a profound moment.
And as all this was raging, the public, they started sharing her poetry online. Her own words started to push back against the narrative.
Yeah, her voice sort of came through in the end. It's really poignant.
So we have to look at the broader context here because the sources are clear. This didn't happen in a vacuum.
Not at all. There was a pattern. The New York Times reported that in the 4 months before this, immigration officers had shot at least 9 people in 5 different states.
And in every case.
Every single one. The victim was in a car and the officer claimed self-defense. It suggests this is becoming a tactic, not just a one-off tragedy.
And we can't forget where this happened. Minneapolis, just 5 minutes from where George Floyd was murdered.
The trust in law enforcement was already at zero. So this incident, it didn't just spark protests, it reactivated a deep collective trauma.
Then there's the context of ICE itself. The agency had been built up so fast, 12,000 new people hired in less than a year.
Which raises all sorts of questions about training. Are these officers prepared for these incredibly tense situations? Or are they, as the mayor suggested, just there to project force?
That fear of arbitrary enforcement, it feels so real when you read the story of Dulce Consuelo Diaz-Morales.
A U.S. citizen, born here, arrested by ICE, held for 25 days because they claimed she was a Mexican national.
Only released when her lawyers showed up with a birth certificate.
It's terrifying. It shows that even being a citizen might not protect you. And it explains why the local leaders in Minnesota reacted so strongly. They saw this as a threat to everyone.
The mayor, the governor, the attorney general, all telling people to show up and protest, framing it as a defense of their state against federal overreach.
It's just unprecedented.
So as we wrap this up, the conflict is it's so stark. On one side, you have Renee Nicole Good, a poet, a mother, a prize winner.
And on the other, you have the official government label, applied just hours after she died. Domestic terrorist.
That disparity is really the heart of the story. It's a moment where a police chief and a governor are on the record, directly contradicting the President of the United States. We're being forced to choose which reality to believe.
So the question it leaves you with, really, is a fundamental one. What do you want from your government? What do you want from law enforcement?
Do you want the full rights of a citizen, the right to question, to protest, to be protected from arbitrary force?
Or are you willing to grant law enforcement absolute, unquestioned authority? And in doing so, accept political violence as, a necessary tool for order. The 2 stories of Renee's death, they leave no neutral ground. That's the question we all have to confront now.
This was all for today. Stay safe, stay happy, take good care of yourself. See you next time with another story in Deep Dive.